I got back on a Thursday. The flight landed at 6 in the evening. I took a taxi home because I didn't want to bother anyone for a ride. The driver asked if I'd been on vacation. I said yes and left it at that. He didn't ask any follow-up questions, which I appreciated. We drove in silence while the city passed by outside the window. Familiar streets, familiar buildings, everything exactly where it had always been. My apartment was on the third floor of a building in Queen Anne. I'd lived there for 4 years. When I unlocked the door and stepped inside, everything was the same. The furniture, the books on the shelf, the dishes in the sink that I'd left before I went. I set my bag down by the door and stood there for a moment, looking around. It felt smaller than I remembered. Not physically, just smaller somehow. I unpacked that evening, put dirty clothes in the hamper, sorted through gear that needed cleaning, threw away food from the fridge that had gone bad while I was gone. Normal tasks, everything methodical and familiar. I ordered takeout for dinner, Thai food from the place down the street. When the delivery person knocked, I opened the door and took the bag and thanked them. They smiled and said to have a good night. I ate sitting on my couch. The food was fine. I wasn't particularly hungry, but I ate it anyway because I knew I should. After dinner, I took a shower. The water pressure was good. The temperature was exactly how I liked it. I stood under it for a long time, letting it run over me, feeling my muscles relax. When I got out, I noticed I'd left the bathroom door open. I always closed it when I showered. Always. But tonight I'd left it open without thinking about it. I looked at the open door for a moment, then dried off and got dressed. That night I slept in my own bed for the first time in 2 weeks. The mattress was comfortable, the sheets were clean. The room was dark and quiet. I lay there for an hour before falling asleep. I went back to work on Monday. My coworkers asked if I'd had a good trip. I said yes, it was fine, thanks for asking. They nodded and went back to their work, and I went back to mine. The office was the same. Same desk, same computer, same coffee maker in the break room that never worked quite right. I fell back into the routine easily. Emails and meetings and projects. Everything continuing exactly as it had before I left. During lunch, I went to the cafe across the street like I always did. Ordered the same sandwich I always ordered. Sat at the same table by the window, but I noticed I was facing the door. I'd chosen the seat that let me see who was coming in and out. I didn't usually sit in that seat. Usually I faced the window, looked out at the street while I ate. Today I faced the door. I didn't think much about it at the time. That evening, I stopped at the grocery store on my way home, walked the aisles picking up things I needed. Milk, bread, coffee. The store was busy with people getting off work, everyone moving through with their carts and baskets. At the checkout line, I stood behind a woman with a sleeping baby in a carrier. She was unloading groceries onto the belt, moving carefully so she wouldn't wake the baby. I watched the automatic doors at the front of the store, watched people come in and out. Noticed who was carrying bags, who had their hands free, who was moving quickly, and who was moving slow. The woman ahead of me finished checking out and pushed her cart away. The cashier smiled at me and started scanning my items. "Find everything okay?" she asked. "Yes, thanks." I paid and left. Walking to my car, I kept my keys in my hand, ready. I unlocked the door from a few feet away so I could get in quickly. Started the engine immediately after sitting down. Normal things. Things everyone does, but I noticed I was doing them. At home, I made dinner. Pasta with vegetables. Simple. I ate at my kitchen table and looked out the window at the building across the street. Lights on in different apartments. People moving around in their spaces, living their lives. I thought about closing the blinds but didn't. After dinner, I tried to read. I had a book I'd been in the middle of before I left, a novel someone had recommended. I opened it to the page I'd marked and started reading where I'd left off. I couldn't follow it. The words made sense individually, but I couldn't hold on to the thread of the story. I read the same page 3 times and still couldn't tell you what happened in it. I set the book down and turned on the television instead. Found something mindless, a cooking competition show. Watched people make elaborate desserts under time pressure while judges commented. It was fine. It kept my attention enough. Around 10, I got ready for bed. Brushed my teeth, washed my face, changed into sleep clothes. Before getting into bed, I checked the front door, made sure it was locked, the deadbolt and the chain both. Then I checked the windows, all of them, living room, bedroom, kitchen, all closed, all locked. I'd never done that before, not systematically like that. Maybe occasionally I'd check the front door before bed, but not every window, not every lock. Tonight I checked everything. Then I got into bed and turned off the light. The apartment was quiet, just the ambient sounds of a building at night. Pipes, the hum of the refrigerator, footsteps from the apartment above me. Normal sounds. I lay there in the dark, listening to them. My eyes adjusted slowly. The room took shape. The dresser, the closet door, the window with the blinds half open, streetlight coming through in slats. I should have been tired. I'd worked a full day. I'd eaten. I'd done everything right. But I wasn't tired. I was awake and alert in a way that felt different from normal wakefulness. Like my body was paying attention to things I wasn't consciously thinking about. I turned over, faced the wall, closed my eyes, opened them again a minute later. The closet door was slightly ajar. I could see the dark gap where it hadn't been closed all the way. I'd left it like that this morning when I'd gotten dressed. I looked at it for a long moment. Then I got up, walked over, and closed it completely. Heard the latch click. I went back to bed. This time I faced the door, the bedroom door that led to the hallway. It was open a few inches. I always slept with it open. I didn't like the feeling of being closed in, but looking at it now, at the dark gap leading to the darker hallway beyond, I felt something I couldn't name. Not fear exactly. Fear implies a specific threat. This was more diffuse than that, more like a heightened awareness. A sense that sleep was a form of vulnerability I wasn't ready for. I got up again. This time I closed the bedroom door. Not all the way, just mostly. Enough that I could still hear if something happened elsewhere in the apartment, but so that the gap wasn't so visible. I got back into bed and lay there in the quiet darkness of my closed-in room. The apartment was safe. The locks were good. The building was secure. I lived in a good neighborhood. Nothing had ever happened here. No break-ins. No problems. I knew all of that. But lying there in my own bed, in my own apartment, in the city I'd lived in for years, I didn't feel safe. I just didn't. And I couldn't explain why. The next morning I woke up before my alarm. It was still dark outside, 5:15 according to my phone. I lay there for a few minutes, then got up and made coffee. While it brewed, I stood at the kitchen window looking down at the street. A few cars passing. A person walking a dog. The coffee shop on the corner with its lights on, getting ready to open. Everything normal. I drank my coffee standing at the counter. I used to sit at the table, scroll through my phone while I woke up. Now I stood facing the window, watching. At work, I noticed small things about my behavior that I hadn't noticed before. I took the stairs instead of the elevator. My office was on the 5th floor. I'd always taken the elevator. Everyone took the elevator. But today, I took the stairs without thinking about it, and when I got to my floor, I wasn't winded, just alert. During the morning meeting, I sat in a different chair than usual, the chair closest to the door. I'd never cared about where I sat before. Now I cared. One of my coworkers, Jennifer, noticed. "You stole my seat," she said, smiling, joking. "Sorry, habit." No worries. I'll survive. She sat in my usual spot instead. The meeting was about a product launch, timeline, deliverables, action items. I took notes and participated when necessary. Everything normal. But I was also aware of where everyone was sitting. Who was between me and the door? How many people were in the room? The location of the nearest exit sign in the hallway. I'd never thought about those things before. At lunch, I went to a different cafe. Not the usual one across the street. A different one 3 blocks away. It had worse coffee and more expensive sandwiches, but it had windows on 2 sides and I could see the door from every table. I sat in the back corner, ate quickly, left. That evening, I went to the grocery store again, even though I'd just gone 2 days before. I told myself I needed a few things I'd forgotten. Eggs, dish soap. But really, I think I just wanted to practice being in a public space. Wanted to see if it would feel easier the second time. It didn't. I moved through the aisles with the same heightened awareness as before, watching who was behind me, checking sight lines, planning routes. At the checkout, I chose the line with the fewest people, paid, left quickly. In my car, I sat for a moment before starting the engine. My hands were shaking slightly, not from cold, just shaking. I gripped the steering wheel until they stopped. That night, I checked all the locks again before bed. Door, windows, everything secure. Then I moved through the apartment closing things. The closet door, the bathroom door, the kitchen cabinets that had been left open. I didn't like open spaces anymore. Open doors, open cabinets, gaps. Everything needed to be closed. In bed, I lay facing the bedroom door again, even though it was mostly shut. Even though I'd checked all the locks. I lay there watching that small gap, listening to the building settle around me. I fell asleep around midnight and woke up at 3. No reason. No sound, just awake. I got up and walked through the apartment in the dark. Checked the front door again, still locked. Looked out each window. Nothing unusual, just the empty street, the parked cars, the street lights. I went back to bed, but didn't fall asleep again until after 5. This pattern continued. Every night I'd check the locks, close all the doors, lie awake watching the gap, wake up in the middle of the night and check everything again. During the day I took stairs instead of elevators, sat near exits, faced doors, watched people. After a week, my brother called. "Hey, want to grab dinner this weekend? I'm pretty busy. Come on. I haven't seen you since you got back. Just one dinner." I agreed because it seemed like too much effort to refuse. We met at a restaurant on Saturday evening, a place we'd been to before. Casual, good burgers. My brother was already there when I arrived, sitting at a booth near the back. I walked over and slid in across from him. "How's it going?" he asked. "Fine. Work's busy." "Yeah? Anything interesting?" "Not really. Same stuff." We ordered food. He talked about his kids, his job, normal brother conversation. I listened and made appropriate responses. But I was also watching the restaurant, the front door, the kitchen entrance, the emergency exit sign near the bathrooms, counting how many people were between me and each exit, noting who was sitting where. My brother noticed me looking around. "You okay?" "Yeah, why?" "You seem distracted." "Just tired." He nodded and let it go. When the food came, I ate quickly. Too quickly. I used to enjoy meals, take my time. Now I just wanted to be done. After dinner, my brother walked me to my car. "You sure you're okay?" he asked. "You seem different." "I'm fine, just adjusting to being back." "It's been 2 weeks." "I know." He looked at me carefully. "If you want to talk about what happened, there's nothing to talk about. I'm fine." He didn't push it, just hugged me and told me to call if I needed anything. I drove home and went through my routine, checked the locks, closed the doors, lay in bed watching the gap. The following week, I started doing other things. I moved my bed, pushed it against the wall so my back would be protected while I slept, so I'd have a clear view of the door and the window. It made the room feel more cramped. Less comfortable, but safer somehow. I stopped using headphones when I walked places. I needed to hear what was around me. Music felt like a vulnerability. I started keeping my phone charged at all times, never below 50%. I'd charge it at work, at home, in the car, always ready. I bought extra batteries, extra charging cables, kept them in my bag, in my car, by my bed, just in case. I didn't know what the just in case was for. Just in case of what? But I did it anyway. At the grocery store, I started parking in different spots each time. Never the same location twice, always where I could see the car from inside the store. I varied my route home from work, took different streets, different times, no pattern. When I noticed myself doing these things, I'd tell myself it was temporary, that I just needed time, that eventually I'd go back to normal. But 3 weeks became 4 weeks. 4 weeks became 5, and nothing changed. I was still checking locks, still closing doors, still watching exits, still waking up at 3 in the morning to walk through my apartment in the dark. One evening, I was standing at my kitchen window, looking down at the street like I did every morning and every evening, and I realized something. This wasn't temporary. This was just how I was now. The person who used to live in this apartment, who took elevators and sat with their back to the door and slept through the night. That person was gone. I was someone different now, someone who needed to see the exits, who needed to check the locks, who couldn't feel safe even in their own home. I stood at the window until it was full dark outside, watching my reflection in the glass, barely recognizing myself. My brother stopped by unannounced on a Wednesday evening. I heard the knock and looked through the peephole before opening the door. A habit now. Always checking first. "Hey," he said when I opened it. I was in the neighborhood. "Thought I'd check in?" He wasn't in the neighborhood. He lived in Ballard. This was a deliberate visit. "Come in," I said. He stepped inside and looked around the apartment. His eyes caught on things. The bed pushed against the wall, visible through the open bedroom door. The closed cabinets, the lack of anything left out on surfaces. "Place looks different," he said. "I reorganized some things." He nodded, didn't comment further. "I made tea because that seemed like what you did when someone visited." We sat at the kitchen table. He wrapped his hands around the mug but didn't drink. "Mom called me," he said. I waited. "She's worried about you. Said you haven't been returning her calls. I've been busy. She said when you do call back, you sound strange, distant." I drank my tea. It was too hot. I drank it anyway. "She's asking if you've seen anyone," he continued. "About what happened. A therapist, a doctor, anyone." "The doctors at the hospital cleared me. That was 6 weeks ago. Physical clearance isn't the same as..." He stopped, started again. "Look, what you went through, it's normal to need help processing it. I'm fine. You don't seem fine." I set down my mug. "What do you want me to say?" "I want you to admit that maybe you're not okay, that maybe you need to talk to someone. Everyone keeps saying that. Talk to someone, like talking will fix something. Like there's something broken that needs fixing. Isn't there?" I looked at him. My brother. Someone I'd known my entire life. Someone who meant well. "I survived," I said. "That's what everyone wanted. That's what the search team wanted. That's what you wanted. I survived and I came home and now everyone expects me to go back to normal. But nobody told me what normal was supposed to feel like after." He was quiet for a moment. "So this isn't normal? What you're doing now?" "I don't know what it is." "Then maybe talking to someone would help you figure that out." I didn't respond. We sat in silence. He finished his tea and left shortly after. Said to call him if I needed anything. I said I would, even though we both knew I wouldn't. After he left, I stood at the kitchen window. It was dark out, 8:30, the street mostly empty. I thought about what he'd said, about processing what happened, about needing help. Everyone assumed that surviving meant it was over, that getting rescued meant returning to the life I'd had before. They talked about it like there was a clear line, before and after, and once you crossed back over, everything would be the same. But nothing was the same. At work the next day, Jennifer stopped by my desk. "Hey, a few of us are going to happy hour after work. You should come." "I can't tonight, sorry." "You couldn't last week either." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "You sure you're okay? You've been kind of withdrawn since you got back from your trip." Trip. Everyone called it a trip, like I'd been on vacation. "I'm fine, just a lot going on." "Well, if you change your mind, we'll be at that bar on 4th. She walked away and I went back to my computer, stared at the screen without seeing it. Everyone thought I was being antisocial, thought I was choosing to isolate myself. They didn't understand that crowded bars felt impossible now. Too many people. Too many variables. No way to see all the exits at once. That evening I went home and did my routine. Checked the locks, closed the doors, made dinner, ate alone. Around 9 my phone rang. My mother. I almost didn't answer, but she'd keep calling. I picked up. "Hi, Mom. Finally, I've been trying to reach you all week." "I know. Sorry. Work's been busy. Your brother said he came by to see you." Of course he'd told her. He did. He's worried. I'm worried. We all are. "There's nothing to worry about. You were in the hospital for 3 days. Her voice caught. "You almost didn't make it, and now you won't talk to anyone about it." "What do you want me to say?" "I want you to acknowledge that it affected you, that maybe you need help." "I don't need help. I need everyone to stop treating me like I'm broken." "No one thinks you're broken. We just want you to be okay." "I am okay." The line was quiet for a moment. "Are you sleeping?" she asked. "Yes." "Are you eating?" "Yes." "Are you going to work?" "Yes." "I'm doing everything I'm supposed to be doing. I'm functioning." Functioning isn't the same as living. I didn't have a response to that. She sighed. "I'm your mother. I can tell when something's wrong, and something is wrong." "I survived," I said. "That should be enough." "It's not about being enough. It's about..." She stopped. "Just promise me you'll think about talking to someone. A professional. Please." "I'll think about it." "Promise?" "I promise." We said goodbye and I hung up. I sat on my couch in the quiet apartment, phone in my hand. Everyone wanted me to talk about what happened, to process it, to work through it. They wanted me to return to who I was before. But that person didn't exist anymore. That person would have answered the door without looking through the peephole, would have gone to happy hour, would have slept through the night without checking the locks. That person felt safe in the world. I didn't feel safe anymore. Not in my apartment, not at work, not in grocery stores or restaurants or my own car. The thing everyone didn't understand was that surviving doesn't mean you get your old life back. It doesn't mean you get your old self back. It just means you're alive. And being alive is different than feeling safe. I'd survived. The search team had found me. The doctors had treated me. I'd been released. I'd come home. I'd done everything right. But safety didn't follow me home. It stayed wherever I'd left it, in the version of myself that existed before, in the person who didn't know yet that things could go wrong, that you could do everything right and still end up cold and alone and waiting for help that might not come. That person was gone, and this person the one who checked locks and watched exits and couldn't sleep through the night. This person knew too much now. Knew that safety was temporary. That control was an illusion. That you could be fine one moment and fighting for your life the next. I couldn't unknow that. No amount of talking would change it. I sat there on my couch in my locked apartment with all the doors closed, and I understood something I hadn't wanted to accept. Survival doesn't end when the danger ends. It continues. Every day. Every night. This was survival too. This checking and watching and never quite relaxing. This was what coming home looked like. And I didn't know if it would ever feel different. I did eventually call a therapist, not because I thought it would help, because everyone kept asking if I had, and it was easier to say yes than to keep saying no. Her office was on the second floor of a building near Green Lake. Large windows, soft lighting, a couch and 2 chairs arranged in a way that was probably supposed to feel casual. I sat in the chair closest to the door. She asked me questions. How was I sleeping? How was work? Had I been having intrusive thoughts? I answered honestly, not sleeping well. Work was fine. No intrusive thoughts, just constant awareness. Hypervigilance, she said. That's common after traumatic events. Your nervous system is stuck in a threat response. I nodded. The goal is to help your body understand that you're safe now, that the threat has passed. I didn't say anything. Does that make sense? She asked. Yes, but it didn't. Not really, because the threat hadn't passed. It had just changed location. Before, the threat was external. Cold, altitude, distance from help. Those were quantifiable dangers. I could measure them, prepare for them, respond to them. Now the threat was everywhere and nowhere. It was the possibility of threat, the knowledge that things could go wrong anywhere, anytime, regardless of how safe something appeared. I couldn't prepare for that, couldn't measure it, could only stay alert. I went to 3 more sessions. She taught me breathing exercises, grounding techniques, ways to calm my nervous system when it activated. I practiced them. They didn't help. On the 4th session, I told her I didn't think I needed to keep coming. That's your choice, she said, but I'd encourage you to give it more time. These patterns take time to shift. I don't think they're going to shift. They might not shift completely, but you can learn to live with them in a way that's less disruptive. I thanked her and didn't schedule another appointment. That was in November. By December, I'd stopped pretending things would go back to normal. I kept my routines, the checking, the watching, the positioning, but I stopped apologizing for them, even internally. When coworkers asked why I always took the stairs, I said I preferred the exercise. When my brother asked why I'd moved my furniture around again, I said I liked the new layout. When my mother asked if I was sleeping better, I said yes. Small lies that made everyone feel better. I learned to exist in public spaces more easily, not comfortably, but with less effort. I knew where the exits were. I knew who was around me. I stayed alert. And after a while, that baseline of alertness just became normal. Background noise I stopped noticing consciously. At work, I was productive, met my deadlines, contributed in meetings. My performance reviews were good. Outside of work, I was alone most of the time. I stopped making excuses. When people invited me places, I just said no thank you. Some people stopped inviting me. That was fine. I spent evenings at home, cooking, reading, watching things. Normal solitary activities. The kind millions of people do every night. The difference was the checking, the locking, the positioning, the awareness. But from the outside, it probably looked like regular quiet life. Sarah called in January. We hadn't spoken since I'd gotten back. I'm putting together a trip for this spring, she said. Nothing intense, just a week in the Tetons, some moderate climbing. Good group, I think you'd enjoy it. I don't think so. You sure? It might be good to get back out there. I'm sure. A pause. You're not climbing anymore? No. At all? At all. Another pause. Longer. I'm sorry, she said finally. I know what that meant to you. It's fine. Is it? I looked out my kitchen window at the gray Seattle afternoon, rain starting. It has to be, I said. We talked for a few more minutes, surface things, then said goodbye. After I hung up, I thought about climbing, about the person I'd been who did that, who sought out risk and challenge and thin air. That person seemed impossible now, incomprehensible. Why would anyone choose to put themselves in danger? Why would anyone willingly go to places where things could go wrong? I didn't understand it anymore. Winter passed into spring. The days got longer. The city came back to life after months of rain. People seemed happier, lighter. I watched them from my apartment window, watched them walk by in t-shirts and sunglasses, smiling, relaxed. I wondered what that felt like. In April, my lease came up for renewal again. I signed it without hesitation this time. This apartment worked. It was familiar. I knew its sounds, its sightlines, its locks. Moving would mean starting over, learning a new space, new vulnerabilities. I stayed. My brother invited me to his daughter's birthday party in May. I went because it seemed important to him. The party was in his backyard. Lots of kids, lots of noise. Parents standing around talking, drinking beer, watching their children play. I stood near the back fence, close to the gate, where I could leave easily if I needed to. My brother came over with 2 beers, handed me one. "Thanks for coming," he said. "Of course." We stood in silence for a moment, watching his kids play. "You seem better," he said. "Do I?" "More settled, I guess. Less..." He searched for the word. "Less like you're about to bolt." I almost laughed. I was literally standing next to the exit, ready to bolt at any moment, but I said, "Maybe I am." He seemed satisfied with that. Later, driving home, I thought about what he'd said. That I seemed better. I wasn't better. I was just more practiced. Better at performing normalcy. Better at existing in the world in this state of constant readiness. The alertness hadn't decreased. I'd just learned to carry it more smoothly. That night I went through my routine. Checked the locks. Closed the doors. Got into bed. Lay there in the dark, facing the bedroom door, listening to the building settle. Outside, the city continued. Traffic. Voices. The ordinary sounds of May evening in Seattle. Inside, I was awake and watching. Always watching. I thought about the therapist, about her saying my nervous system was stuck in threat response, about how the goal was to convince my body I was safe, but my body wasn't wrong. I wasn't safe. Not really. None of us were. Safety was something people told themselves existed, a story we agreed to believe so we could function, so we could sleep at night and go to work and raise children and plan futures. Most people got to keep believing that story. I didn't. I'd learned what it felt like when the story broke down, when all the distance between safe and not safe collapsed into nothing. I couldn't unlearn that. So this was my life now. This apartment with its checked locks, this careful movement through public spaces, this constant low-level awareness that never quite turned off. It wasn't the life I'd planned, wasn't the life I'd had before, but it was the life I had now. And I was learning to live it. Not happily, not peacefully, just living it. One checked lock at a time, one watched exit at a time. One night at a time, lying awake in the dark, keeping watch over a safety I'd never feel again.